innovating across the healthcare value chain.
Hello. All right. Last but not least, thank you guys for sticking along with us here. I know we're a little tight on time, so we're going to try to keep this on schedule. So, first off, just a quick introduction. My name is Michael Malin. Come from a entrepreneur background. Spent the last about 10 years building out a medtech company of my own, and I guess moved to the other side of the table, investing in early stage startups and working to create kind of partnerships to find like the big tech problems that those companies are solving, and how do we use our portfolio of a couple thousand startups at this point that we've invested in that can help solve those problems. Maybe a quick round of introductions, maybe starting with you.
Thanks, Mike. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ionut. 20 years working in healthcare, in pharmaceuticals and in diagnostics. Currently, I'm head of strategy and business innovation at Roche Diagnostics.
Suresh?
Hello everyone, this is Suresh Subramani. I'm heading the commercial operations at ALJ Health. I'm basically a biomedical engineer and I have been working in the Middle East for almost 25 years with an experience of launching a lot of innovative technologies to the market and also introducing the startup companies to the Arab Health or the Ministry of Health ecosystem.
Excellent. Thank you. Mazin Gadir, I think you already have heard my introduction before, but just a quick FYI. Quantum physicist by background, jumped into healthcare by mistake through my Cerner days. Then I got engraved by the different positions I changed into, from Abu Dhabi Healthcare Services to Dubai Health Authority to PwC and eventually into IQVIA. Digital health enthusiast. Love working with Suresh previously as well, and a number of the beautiful people out there.
Well, thank you all. So without further ado, I know there's quite a few startups or people who work with startups in the audience. So I thought I'd ask you guys quickly, how can larger healthcare organizations effectively collaborate with startups to actually drive innovation?
Well, I don't know if I can talk on behalf of all the corporations, but I can share a little bit of insights about how Roche is doing that and looks upon it. So in general, I think there are several reasons that large corporations should work with startups, and two of them are obvious. First, it's you get access to an open innovation. So you got that feeling of the startups that usually in the large corporation you don't see, the agility and the sparks that comes from the startups. Then, not to forget that you have access to different stakeholders from the ecosystem, and beauty gathering like this, it's a showcase that you get different stakeholders from the healthcare ecosystem. And then there are two additional reasons that I think are valid also for the startups. One, it's that you immediately can get to a deal flow. So you stay at the table with the corporation, and if your idea it's good, you can proceed, and that comes with something that was debatable a little bit earlier to go to accelerated program or not. So I think that it's also a great opportunity for startups. Reflecting how we are doing it at Roche, I think we have a great collaboration which started some 8-9 years back with Plug and Play, and we put together the Cryosphere project. That it's one of the biggest, the largest digital health hubs at this moment, with offices in Munich, in Singapore, in Shanghai, and over the years there were more than 100 projects and more than 120 startups that were going through different projects. So I think it's pretty rewarded. Yeah.
Thank you, Mazin or Suresh.
Sure. Do you mind? Oh, excellent. So I'll quickly jump in and say, listen, I mean, we are witnessing a whole disruption to the way corporations work in this specific region. From transaction, commercial based, totally, to try and put some stake in the game and invest, hopefully, in the innovation cycles. As mentioned by Ioannis, that organizations, corporations in the pharma, in the big four companies, the tech companies, they are actually trying to move away from commercially driven transactions completely to try and bring in value-based, revenue-shared models of innovation, investing in the talent. And you see this because the pressure is on. Local big partners, Abdul Latif Jameel, Ubaikan Group, Ajlan and Bros in Saudi, you have the M42s in Pure Health in UAE, are putting the pressure on by bringing in and investing in innovation cycles, and hopefully not try to kick the international corporations out of the market, but try to present them with a new way of looking at this region. It's no longer we're dealing just commercially with the ministries of health, the authorities of health, the private sector, the public sector. You now want to put in a stake. You want to think about revenue shared models. You want to look at value-based engagements, and that is because the rising maturity of the local domain. Good examples are coming out in Saudi Arabia, number of accelerators, plug and play, for example, collaborating with Council for Health Insurance. We have also very good collaborations happening here in Hub 71, bringing in industry leaders, local corporations, international corporations to put in some money where the mouth is, and bring in more diluted and hybrid models of engagement, not just commercial transactions. Give you the product, the service, give me the money. It's no longer that way. Maturity is growing in the region.
Just to add on to Dr. Mazin's point, if you look at the startups coming to the region, there are a lot of opportunities, especially UAE government encourages. Ministry of Health runs every year an innovation contest based on the qualification. They also give an open space to showcase the product at the Arabel. I had personally experienced on introducing the startup companies in the Ministry of Health Innovation Hub even this year and last year. That's a great opportunity for the startup companies. And also, if you look at the regulatory challenges on each country in this region is different, am I right? That's the area you definitely need to collaborate with the local healthcare entity if you want to get the market access. So like Ministry of Health, DHA and Pure Health are the great examples of inviting the startup companies from the early stage to test and then pilot the projects actually. So that brings in, and also we could see lot of gaps on, lot of activities happening on the technology inventions as well as the IT inventions. But when you look at to the distribution model, today the traditional distribution model is the only way exists accessing the market. So that's the area where our shareholders, Abdul Latif Jameel Health, have a vision to bring in market enabling platform for the innovative startup companies from the global north to access the market to the global south. That's where we bring in a value, and we want to disrupt that ecosystems of giving an access to the smaller innovative companies to access the market in the global market at an affordable and accessible to the healthcare.
So can we go a bit deeper there? Maybe for even some of the startups in this room. So, you have a pretty wide range of technologies that you've built in your portfolio. When you're looking at startups, Suresh, or scale-ups, how do you identify what technologies are going to be successful within ALJ Health's portfolio?
So it's a good question, Michael. So our experience is we are being a startup in a bigger company, in a family-owned multi-billion-dollar business company. So the main thing we look at is whether the technology is disruptive in nature and it's affordable and accessible to the global south market. That's one of our key parameter. And the second thing is founders of the company, are they are sustainable to be in the market for sustainable period of time to become a profitable, and then the technology is not just sold off. That's a very, very important parameter when we select the product. And third is it solving the clinical problem? Is the need of the product? Okay, that's where we bring in, we have a very strong BD team. We do a great market analysis and also do the product fit to the market. And also we do a lot of analysis on the W2P, willingness to pay of the customers of the product. Based on that, we try to build a portfolio. So currently we are building a portfolio around point of care diagnostic around the ultrasound, and then an ophthalmology disease pattern, which is the glaucoma, and surgical portfolio. So what happens is if you launch a single innovative product, startup product, the cost of acquisition is pretty high, And access to the market, you have a lot of barriers on the regulatory and the ROI perspective. So we try to bring in a basket of product, a portfolio which complements, and then that enables us to achieve the better ROI and better access to the market. So that's exactly we do. This answers.
Thank you. That makes sense. Yeah.
Want to add to that point, because again, don't forget these locally bred innovative brands that are now diving into innovation are internationalizing. That means they become an international global brand. And look at the different locally bred entities, the Tamar groups, the ALJs, the Ubaikan group. You have also companies like the Tahaluf in the UAE, the Emiratex that are diving into the innovation hubs. MedTech is a huge industry that they are bringing into their portfolio to try and internationalize. You've seen that strategy that came out of Saudi Arabia, the biotechnology strategy was launched by His Highness, His Royal Highness, and that shows the appetite for the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and we can add Qatar at some point and Oman at some point for trying to bring MedTech to help internationalize some of those portfolios of companies that are locally bred. And it's very key to look at the accelerators and the incubators that are jointly formed and established for you to be part of that as one of the entry points.
Thank you, Dr. Mazin. And maybe just to call on you actually a little bit more. So, I think probably everyone in this room would agree that collaboration is key for success, right? There's way too big of a problem for any one person to solve on their own. You've had the, I think, opportunity of seeing a lot of different parts of the healthcare value chain, whether it be on a regulatory side or a health IT side or consultancy side, et cetera. Could you maybe kind of give us a specific example or two of how you've seen a partnership or collaboration across multiple organizations yield to a successful innovation?
Absolutely. So, and I think one of the, in my role and current role in IQVIA as the partnership lead, we are very focused on partnership strategy and collaboration and strategic alliances. You can't do everything together or alone. You have to do it with others. So one of the most important and effective partnerships we have is basically markets like Egypt. Egypt is a growing market, and looking at partnership with a system integrator in Egypt is something that has helped us a lot in the expansion into the market of the digital transformation programs. And that brings along some of the startups that we can actually unearth, whether it's Egypt born or bred, as well as other GCC startups that could actually tag along. And we have actually worked on building in collaboration with system integrators in Egypt on a number of initiatives, digital transformation, transforming their universal health insurance program, looking at track and trace capabilities for the Egyptian Drug Authority, and so on and so forth. This is another key success story that we've had, try to get into markets that are sometimes difficult due to the economic instability or because of the different way of dealing in terms of business dealings. So you have to find that local partner that enable you to venture in. And that's the same advice I'll go with MedTech companies who are trying to venture up and scale up in heavily populated countries, like Ethiopia, India, Pakistan, Nigeria, where you actually invest in finding that locally trusted partner that enables you to, and there is a lot there to uncover from the local brands that want to internationalize and have that association to them.
Thank you. And Ionut, maybe I'll call on you. So when you look at the way Roche approaches either doing something internally or going through different partnerships, whether it's one of the many examples of the startups or scale-ups that you've worked with or other larger scale partnerships, how do you evaluate whether to innovate internally versus look externally in whatever problem you're trying to solve?
Well, thanks for the question. I think to put it in the right context, I think the first step will be to understand what it will be the future of healthcare and what kind of trends are. And if you think from this perspective, you will see that how we see it at Roche is that you will have two major trends that both generates data. So one of the trends, and it was discussed also this morning, it's more about the personalized or precision medicine. So things into the future like early detection of cancer or rare disease will play a role, important one. And here the innovation, we still believe it's a lot of things that are done internally or with academia. It's really deep science that goes behind, and we spend a lot of investment into this field. However, there is another layer that was also touched this morning, and it's more about patient-centric. An example, it's home testing. The things are shifting more and more from the hospital base more into the home care, because it's the paradigm of the future. We look that more and more we need to pay attention to the well-being and to the health care than to the sick care. So that's a really good part of the prevention and the things that are happening in order to really improve the quality of life. And in this part, you can talk about whatever the type of home testing or a combination between digital biomarker and traditional biomarkers, so a lot of space. So all those, both trends will generate data. So it's very interesting to see how in that innovation will play in the way we look at the data, in the way that we look into the safe, anonymize and taking care of the data, with the only purpose of having, as Mazin was telling, outcomes, positive outcomes, either in terms of prevention or in terms of improving individual population health. And that is for the health. However, there is an underlying layer which comes from technology. So if you ask me now to try to summarize, I think for the many of the startups, there is a fertile ground to work around the technology, around the home care and around the well-being, and that will be where we are looking on top of our heavily investment into the really true science and own R&D that goes more into the precision and personalized healthcare.
Thank you. And maybe just to go one step further there, when we look at this region specifically, and I know there's an opportunity and a challenge that comes uniquely with this region, right? This region, in terms of the data that is available because of such a diverse population, the N is maybe not quite as large as in some other regions, just because the population here isn't as large, but the diversity of it is quite large, which creates, I think, some unique opportunities when it comes to diagnostic capabilities or the future precision medicine that many are talking about. Do you have any kind of insight or thoughts on how we might be able to start looking at taking advantage of the unique diversity of this region when it comes to diagnostic or pharmaceutical development? And for yourself or Dr. Mazin, if you had something you want to say, please go ahead.
I will be quite, so we are in a constant discussion with all so the idea is quite simple, constant dialogue and collaboration with all the important stakeholders in the healthcare ecosystem. And more of the discussions about medium to long term. However, the localization of the data and making sure you have the right infrastructure and the right quality of the data, it's crucial. What we notice, it's including in the diagnostic, in the basic diagnostics, that you need to have localized data. And we are discussing with some customers here in UAE, because of the blend of the population, if you have reference ranges, sometimes can be a challenge. So there is a constant dialogue and a constant investment. However, from the accessibility point of view, from making sure that the localization of the data and all the privacy is in place, I think a lot of discussion still needs to happen.
Absolutely. And I think as you were saying that, I'm thinking of a region that has huge diversity from Africa all the way to South Asia. We're talking about 3 to 4 billion people in this region, right? So diversity is huge. If you're gonna come and bring diagnostics and medtech into cross-border data sharing, if you can challenge that realm and get to the fact that you can provide services beyond borders. Look at what the sovereign wealth funds are doing. They're actually going into bringing digital health out of GCC into neighboring regions for scale up. And that brings all the might of MedTech with it, the diagnostics and whatnot. And they have formed collaboration. One of the biggest success stories that you've heard during COVID-19 is called the HOPE Consortium, The HOPE Consortium was a partnership and alliance between the Department of Health Abu Dhabi, logistics leaders, pharma companies, and huge transportation airlines as well, that allows the movement of vaccines into middle to low income countries in Africa. And that is a huge amount of data that could be unearthed by allowing you to look at how you can provide those diagnostic as a service and medtech as a service to the neighboring countries if you conquer cross-border data sharing. So this is a huge potential, and a lot of the G2G contracts and initiatives are now being masterminded by wealth funds, sovereign wealth funds, bringing digital and medtech as one of the key initiatives to penetrate markets. You've seen it in Jordan, you've seen it in Kenya, you've seen it in Egypt, hugely in Egypt, as well as Turkey and India and whatnot.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think if you look at pretty much every major government and sovereign wealth fund here in the region, they're putting a lot of money towards building out, their own genetic database and doing gene sequencing, and then using that to try to understand how do we extract some insights out of that to drive precision medicine. Now, if we can do that across borders for each of the different countries in the region, then we start getting a lot more collaboration and getting a larger data size that you actually can, do that. I think one challenge is this country is amazingly diverse, but we still only have a very small population, right? So can we get the N to be bigger, especially if it comes to more rare disease and so on? Well, I know that we are pretty much out of time, so just really quickly would love to ask each of the panelists here, how do you think large organizations can best prepare for a lot of these future innovations that we've been talking about throughout the day?
I think being very much aware about what is happening and keeping the contact close to every part of the healthcare ecosystem, understanding the trends, and investing, it's the only way forward.
Yeah, I think the most important is the change management, the technology adoption, the number of AIs come in. It's very, very challenging for the organizations to adopt and train their resources. So there needs to be a key focus on change management and adopting the technologies and workflows. That will really bring a lot of value. Otherwise, it will be like, there are a lot of innovations coming up, but the adoption is going to be a biggest challenge, actually. That's my view. Thank you.
Absolutely. And then you will see also new entrants in the game. You're talking about aging, longevity, which are the top titles of Arab health, and you'll see that coming up again and again. You're talking about genomics, personalized medicine. You'll see the rise of the local powers, right? I'm talking about the locally bred entities, the telco companies that are now divesting and investing in digital health and medtech cross borders, sovereign wealth funds, the local brands that are becoming international brands, matching and try to play in the area of localized production and manufacturing and innovation. And the likes of Roche and the big pharma, the big tech, the big consultancy companies try to reinvest back into the region to try and push more market share and tag along with some of those G2G initiatives that are going between cross borders.